departments because there are a place in society for police. But what is also clear, Devin, is that police are not trained to handle every issue. And it's clear that we shouldn't expect for them to because their training is not for people with homelessness, people with mental issues, with drug addiction, substance abuse. It's great to have a team of a medic and a clinician. You may have some people who say, well, what if there's going to be some safety issues? Well, so far, so good here. We're going to keep our fingers crossed that things are going to keep going well for the city of Denver with the STAR program. And we hope to see that this will maybe stir some other cities, like we said, to adopt the STAR program. Heck, you can change the acronym to whatever you want to. But I think more and more states are really starting to pick up on this. Just take heed to it because we are living in a time where people are expecting some change when it comes to policing in their communities. So, Devin, before we go to our break, we've had a really, really great second segment here. A lot of great news. I always like to, I like that we, try to give people some things that they may not have heard before. Mm-hmm. And in case viewers, you haven't heard, the NAACP celebrated their 112th anniversary. They actually had a virtual event. I believe it was on yesterday, so you can go to their website and probably get a recap of their events. But wanted to recognize NAACP, great organization. Definitely if you can, go chip into their website, join their organization because we all need you. The other thing we wanted to shout out was ASALH. And if you don't know, ASALH, that's an acronym that stands for the Association of the Study of African American Life and History. They're actually the organization that are the founders of Black History Month. Woodson is actually the founder of that organization who went on to found Negro History Week that became Black History Month. Mm-hmm. But we just wanted to highlight them because they actually joined our podcast and they actually talked a little bit about the 2021 Black History Month thing, which is the Black family. Don't forget, go to their website, check out their virtual events. They've got a lot going on this month. They've already had some. They've got more coming up. Just go to their website. So yeah, we just wanted to kind of highlight two organizations there before the break to kind of give you something else to look into. So stick with us and we'll be right back. Viewers, welcome back. We're getting into our third segment here, where we're wanting to talk a little bit more broadly about some things. That's kind of our little theme that we do in the third segment here, some more open discussions. And our first one is out of Virginia, where we saw a reparations bill. We've talked a little bit about reparations, where we talked to she's State Senator Julie Mayfield out of North Carolina when we talked to her about reparations. And it's nice to kind of see some other states begin to figure out how can we amend, the past of slavery. So out of Virginia, you have 5 public colleges with ties to slavery. They may be forced to kind of pay reparations under legislation that passed Thursday in the Virginia House of Delegates. So it's interesting to see this, that they're kind of almost, putting the blame on education. It's really, really nice to kind of see that because we know that the history of education was always kind of a separate but equal kind of thing. And we know that education can be the medicine that helped really heal a lot of the symptoms that Black and brown communities are struggling with. So the schools, Devin, looks like they were built before 1864 and they were maintained by slaves. They include the University of Virginia, Virginia Commonwealth University, Virginia Military Institute, the College of William and Mary, and Longwood University. So those five institutions there. The bill would actually require the schools to begin to pay reparations by either creating a community based grant program or by offering scholarships to descendants of slaves. I think either way you go, that's great, Devin. I think that what you're seeing out of this bill is concrete ways to actually do reparations. I think a lot of people have been saying, how do you do reparations when you're looking at slavery? Our people weren't then, weren't there back in slavery. So what do you do? So when you have stories like this, Devin, it's nice to kind of see that people's wheels are starting to turn. People are starting to think, how can we really, really help to heal the communities that have been affected by centuries of oppression?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you say, reparations doesn't have to be in the form of a check. It could be community programs. It could be scholarships and, to college and universities and different things like that. So it doesn't have, we don't have to get hung up on how much is a check worth? How do you figure out who to send it? No, we just need to have the conversation that reparations needs to happen, because you cannot have a generation of people work for free and expect for them to just be able to, go and be equal to the people who had them enslaved. Like, it doesn't, obviously, we are having a hard time healing this country. And that's because the country still has yet to really acknowledge what happened and how we got to this point. We want to act like only, white people built the country and we just got here in 2021 and that's just the way it happened. Slavery was a small part of that and it didn't have anything to do with what this country was actually built on. False. Like, no, the country started with slave labor. That's how they were able to advance so quickly. I mean, that's why we fought a civil war, because the South was trying to keep it. So, yes, this is long overdue. And so I'm glad we're seeing it in different forms. So it could be a check, it could be college. And we need this on a federal level. I think, I forgot her name. It might be Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. I think she reintroduced her HR 40 bill. And so hopefully that gets the conversation started. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm all for this. I know people are out there like, well, there's no, my people didn't own slaves. And like Mitch McConnell trying to say that we had a black president, so we shouldn't push for reparations anymore. Like, no, we have, the country did an injustice and then told the story of the injustice wrong to everybody. So now everybody has this warped view of what actually happened. And so we need to study it. We need the commission to start it, study this, and then give us a resolution, one of an apology for what happened, but also how we go forward and try to right some of those wrongs. And so I'm all for it. And just to give you a tidbit on this Virginia story, they cannot raise tuition to pay for this. They cannot use public money or state money to pay for this. This can probably come from their endowment or somewhere else. And so this would actually take effect in 2022 academic year. So relatively quickly, actually. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I love to see it. It's time that we start having these conversations. You can't just ignore the problem and expect it to go away.
You are absolutely right, Devin. And that's what America has been known for centuries, ignoring problems while the majority class secedes and the others just kind of labor. But yeah, Devin, this is great to see. It's a step in the right direction. But the question, viewers, that we're kind of posing with this Virginia story is that should corporations be held accountable too? Yes, it's great to look at educational institutions, but when you look at capitalism, and you look at corporate America, they have a seat at the table here too. They have a debt to pay as well, because yes, these schools probably profited off of slave labor, but capitalism in America has always profited off of black and brown labor, where our communities haven't seen the same return on the investments that minority, or rather majority communities are seeing. So I think, Devin, whenever we look at this, Virginia is taking a step in the right direction to say, hey, we need to have our educational institutions assess how they affected communities nowadays when you look at slavery. But you also should be looking at corporations, because I mean, you've got some corporations now who are making a tremendous amount of money, billions of dollars, of revenue being poured in, while people in our communities are dying, being affected more harshly from this pandemic. So whenever I think about, should we hold corporations to some sort of accountability? Yeah, I think that a lot of corporations could begin to, analyze how they could help out to repay reparations, how they maybe could come up with new programs. I'm not saying you have to go back to affirmative action, but there's different things that you can do to kind of rectify these wrongs, because you have to, like you said, Devin, you have to realize that the past, yeah, it happened long ago, but the effects are still present today.
They're absolutely present, and I think that's obvious in what happened over the summer. I mean, it's pretty obvious we still have issues. I mean, you look at income, you look at education, you look at generational wealth and upward mobility. African Americans tend to lag behind white people. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get it. We don't expect everybody to go out into the world and make the same exact amount of money. But when you look at it, generational wealth and income inequality has been a problem from the very, very beginning. You can't tell me that the fact that generations of black people had to work for free and did not get paid in any sort of way, that does not have an impact on what we're seeing today. And it wasn't just slavery. It was Jim Crow. It was housing segregation and redlining. It was the black codes. Like, it wasn't just good enough to free black people. They had to put up wall. That's the stuff that we really need to be, compensated for. Those wounds are still fresh. The redlining is still fresh. And infrastructure.
Because you think about how most communities have ghettos that are not near the city center. They're on the outskirts of the town. I mean, viewers, none of this was by chance.
There it is. It's not a happenstance that, you see majority black cities like Detroit and Baltimore and Chicago and struggling to be able to provide for the black people that live in those cities. It's not a happenstance that it happened that way. White people moved out to the suburbs and took the tax base with them, and the federal government did not step in to properly fund the cities, even though they were giving loans to people to go out to the suburbs. So like those wounds there and what we fought with was the civil rights movement. Those wounds are there. They're still fresh. And then after the civil rights movement, we had to deal with the mass incarceration movement. And you can say what you want about Joe Biden. There were a lot of black people behind Joe Biden to sign that crime bill. So everybody likes to hang it around Joe Biden's neck, but there were a lot of black people in Congress. There were a lot of black mayors, politicians who wanted that very same thing because they wanted to do something about crime. That was a humongous mistake, but we have to make up for that because it seems like black people are always on the end of something going wrong in this country. You don't see bills being created targeted specifically at other communities like you do for African Americans. You can go through the history and look at it. You just don't see it. So yes, you have to repair that relationship. You have to heal that with some kind of reparations program. I don't know if it comes from corporations. If they were built using slave labor back then, some of these corporations are very old. They should be in the discussion. You can start by just raising their federal taxes and putting them back to where they used to be.
Or just making them actually pay it.
You
don't have to raise it. Just make sure they pay it.
Right. That we could start there and then work our way. So it absolutely, I think it needs to happen. And so hopefully we get some real movement, because it's past time for something like this to happen. So we just wanted to bring that story to you, give our thoughts on reparations. And so, like I said, we'll give you an update on anything federal or state level that happens.
And one other little plug before we go to our next story. Be on the lookout. I want to say, I don't have the schedule pulled up, but we'll be promoting it. But we will be having an actual episode in our podcast lineup about reparations. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that, just to throw that out there to say that we're going to be doing that. I was going to say, Devin, I hope that Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee's team is listening, because we'd love to have her on the podcast to kind of discuss her bill there, because it's as important to kind of see that going through Congress. But like I said, be on the lookout for that. That'll
Right.
be in April 20th.
April
So
20th.
a
Mark your
little bit away
calendars.
from there. That's right. We're going to be talking a little bit more about reparations. I just want to throw that out there.
No, that's a really good point. Definitely look around for that because that's going to be a great episode. And so, our last story for this segment is another big one talking about workers' rights coming out of Alabama. And so, this involves Amazon and the possibility of there being a union at the Bessemer, Alabama fulfillment center for Amazon. So, they just started voting this week. They started a mail-in vote this week that right now ballots just went out on February 8th to about 5,000 workers. And so they're going to vote by mail onto whether they want to unionize with what the name of the union is the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union. They're going to vote to whether they want to unionize underneath that particular organization. And so that union represents more than 100,000 U.S. workers. And so the workers at the Bessemer Fulfillment Center have until March 29th to return their ballot. And so, Adrian, this would be a huge story if it went through. One of the reasons they're doing this, pushing for a union, is because we know Amazon is a gigantic company, but they also push the envelope when it comes to trying to get the most out of their employees. And so, especially in a fulfillment center, they say the primary issue is Amazon's grueling and automatically enforced productivity metrics. You know, Amazon measures every little thing you do, and they expect a certain level, and that's automatically generated as far as productivity. And so Amazon, of course, is not going to let this go by easily. They started an anti-union campaign in December. They even launched a website with the tagline hashtag "Do It Without Dues," and they were warning people that if you sign a card in support of a union election, then you would legally have to pay the dues to that union. That's not true, but they said that. And so they even went as far as they had managers pulling workers aside for anti-union presentations. They even had so-called captive audience meetings where they made similar arguments against dues and workers say, and they gave out anti-union pins to wear. So, I mean, this seems insane in 2021, but this lets you know they have the attention of Amazon, and that shows you just how big of a deal this is.
You know, Devin, the only thing I can say, because I'm coming from a state or like in Mississippi where I worked, where there's not a teachers union, to California where there is a teachers union. The only thing I can say out of this is that maybe if Amazon would have been listening to their employees, you wouldn't need a union. Because whenever I think about a union, it's about a middleman in between the workers and the boss, because the boss usually isn't listening or isn't doing something, or there's some sort of disgruntled employee or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's great that this is advancing. I think that Amazon has been pushing their workers to make profitability during the pandemic, and they are really just barking up the wrong tree right now. Because if you're going to ask more out of your people, you got to give them more. You can't just work them to death, but don't provide them higher pay. And you got your CEO and your top executives making millions and billions of dollars in bonuses and incentives. So I think this should definitely be something that kind of help to move the ball forward. I guess I'm one to think that if employers would be reasonable and actually communicate with their employees and tackle the issues that they have, you might not would need a union. But unfortunately, Devin, we don't live in a perfect world. Unfortunately, we live in a world where usually employers are going to be driven by profits, shareholders, different things like that, versus the complaints that their employees have. I think that's why you have certain companies like your Chick-fil-A's and Starbucks who talk about how they create more of a customer experience that also translate to their employees, so that they actually have a positive vibe when they come into work. That's why you may not see unions in those sorts of companies versus here. So I think whenever you see tactics like hashtag do it without dues, that kind of that just shows that Amazon is just really pandering towards a particular sector of people here when they should just be really addressing the issues that people have. These union busting tactics, I don't think they look good for Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they look good for any business when you're pulling aside your members and saying, "Hey, don't join this union because you're going to have to pay dues." Like that doesn't mean anything. Just talk to them about what they're wanting to unionize about, and then maybe you can stop them from unionizing if you actually address their needs.
Yeah, I mean, this is the ugly side of, the corporate, not entrepreneur, but the big business that we have today with these companies being as large as they are. They wield a lot of power. I mean, you look at a company like Amazon, they have, they probably do have millions of employees who are working in the fulfillment centers. And for a lot of people, working at Amazon is like the best thing in town when it comes to how much they're getting paid and benefits. And Amazon takes advantage of that because they know if they threaten you to either take away your job or reassign you to somewhere else, then you don't have many other options where you're going to get paid $15 minimum and then have the type of benefits that you do have. And so they take advantage of that. I mean, they monitor every single thing you do, down to how many minutes you spend in the bathroom, how long it takes you to get to the bathroom. Like, it is not for the faint of heart to be in these fulfillment centers. And so they are fed up with it. And every day Amazon expects them to move, more product and have higher productivity rates than what is almost humanly allowable. We're pushing the boundaries here. And the same thing happens with delivery. Delivery drivers are being pushed to the brink because Amazon is like, look, we have billions and billions of packages that we're having to move. They keep, adding faster and faster delivery times for people. So at a certain point, we're going to come to a critical mass where it says, how fast is too fast for when you order a package off Amazon? Because when you order that, somebody has to fulfill it. They have to put it in a box. They have to go deliver it. There was the real people behind all those orders you're putting in on Amazon. So just think about that when you decide to do that. And it needs to happen. I mean, the workers are fed up. I know people who've worked there. It's not the greatest place. And like I say, they are the only thing in town in a lot of these small places. So it's kind of hard to say you would risk your job to join a union when you may not be able to get something as good as what Amazon is offering. So, but hopefully they do it and they stand strong and hopefully they're able to actually bargain, for themselves. So we'll see. We'll keep you updated on that story here. And so before we go, we got big news here. Donald Trump was acquitted. Just kind of unfortunately how we thought. Republicans are not going to condemn him and hold him accountable for what he said and did from between election day until now. And so, Adrian, big news, disappointing news, but I don't think anybody's terribly shocked.
Yeah, I mean, it was 57-43 vote from what it seems like. And it looks like there were 7 Republicans who voted to convict. One interesting statement, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell did suggest that even though this was to acquit Donald Trump, he's not out of the weeds because we still have a criminal and civil systems of law that even former presidents can't, maneuver their way out of. So he could still be held liable, maybe criminally prosecuted or something like that, or civilly prosecuted. It's just that, he can still run for office, but we'll be on the lookout for what that's coming. But yeah, that's Devin. I think that was what we were going to be expecting.
Yeah, not surprised at all. Typical, we'll discuss it later. All right. Well,
you would think that senators whose lives were at risk would have, woken up a little bit, but enough. Maybe not.
It's not enough. At this point, I don't know what else could change their minds. Donald Trump has a stranglehold on that party that I've never seen before. Even if he's out of power, he's somehow able, to control what happens within that party and control people like Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz and all those people. boy, that's pathetic, is what it is. But
A great puppet master.
yes, he is. As crazy as people think he is, he controls that party and he dictates what happens. So, so we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have our quick hits, and then we'll get you out of here. So stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So we're going to get into our quick hits, which is some news that you may have seen, some news you may not have seen. And we always try to leave you with something funny at the end of the show. But we're going to start with something a little bit more serious, starting with Derek Chauvin. So Derek Chauvin is the officer that had his knee on the neck of George Floyd when he passed away over the summer. And so apparently Derek Chauvin had tried to accept a plea deal. And so the plea deal was rejected, actually, in the case of former Officer Chauvin. And so he had agreed to a plea 3 days after George Floyd's death in last May. And this is from the New York Times. He agreed to a guilty plea for murder in the third degree instead of I think it was the first degree. He agreed to murder in the third degree and to spend 10 years in prison. But that deal was actually rejected by Attorney General Bill Barr and the Justice Department. And so officials at the Justice Department said the deal was presented too soon, which, I mean, 3 days after he killed the man, like they gave him a plea deal. That does seem a little quick. And so Chauvin is trying to avoid federal civil rights charges, and he requested to serve time in federal prison as well. So just a little update there about what's going on in Minneapolis.
Exactly. I always like to know kind of what's going on with that, because that event really struck our nation and stirred, a lot of different events. So viewers, onto a little bit of funny here. Here in Los Angeles, the Hollywood sign. Everybody knows the Hollywood sign. Even if you've never been here, you've seen it on movies, you've seen it on TV ads, different things like that. Well, what you haven't seen, though, is what two social media influencers did recently, where they used some tarp and different things to change the Hollywood to Hollyboob. And just to give you a little insight into it, the influencers were actually doing this to try to, I guess, challenge the censorship on Instagram. One of the influencers actually lost millions of followers, and it affected her livelihood when her account was actually shuttered because of nudity. So, she was just trying to do this to kind of, I guess, stand up to Instagram. But one thing, I guess, positive out of this was that it did bring some attention and awareness to breast cancer, Devin. So I think they were arrested on charges of suspicion of trespassing, but at least they brought something good out of it.
Yeah, you can see the picture there of the tarp over the Hollywood sign. That's funny. I think that's a nice a nice maybe cop out there trying to say it's about breast cancer awareness, but that's just my point of view. So our next story here, if you didn't hear about this, I don't know where you've been, but Gorilla Glue Girl is she finally got the glue out of her hair. So this week the world was introduced. Her name is Tessica Brown, not Gorilla Glue Girl. Tessica Brown, she's from Louisiana, and she is the girl who supposedly made a mix-up and put Gorilla Glue hair into her hair instead of a Gorilla Glue spray. Or, like it's like a gel I think she was trying to get. She said she mixed it up and she accidentally put Gorilla Glue, like the actual glue, into her hair. And of course, it became like a helmet almost. Like she couldn't put anything in it. It had hardened. And she couldn't get it out. Here's a picture of it. If you didn't see it, you could tell on her head is kind of really shiny. So yeah, I mean, if you put that in your hair is not going to move at all. And so she couldn't get it out. And so this went over like the course of the week, and she actually ended up going to the hospital because, she couldn't get it out. And they told her they could do like an acetone kind of treatment. And they sent her home to try to do that. That was not successful. So she actually ended up getting a Beverly Hills surgeon to offer his services for free to help her get the glue out of her hair. And she took him up on it, and it was a 4-hour-long surgery. It's this hair surgery, Adrian. This is 2021. We're having hair surgery. 4 hours later, she is glue-free. The glue is finally out of her hair. And so the doctor who performed the surgery, it's a black man, by the way, Dr. Michael Obeng, he did the procedure, and he used a mixture of medical grade adhesive remover, aloe vera, olive oil, and even some acetone to try to get it all out. And so Tessica Brown, Gorilla Glue Girl, she is free of the Gorilla Glue now. She's all good.
Devin, that's a good one. I like that. She will probably go on to do something because she's got all this media attention. Mm-hmm. She'll probably start a company, or maybe she'll be a new social media influencer or something like that. So, I'm sure she didn't like that 4-hour surgery, but the aftermath and all of the exposure she's getting from it, I'm sure she's liking all of that.
Yes, she got a lot. And she's actually, just before you go, she's verified on Instagram now, and she has 808,000 followers.
See,
that's pretty good.
That's what it is, Devin.
Wow.
We've been thinking about what we need to do to get more viewers and more downloads.
I should have put Gorilla Glue.
I don't really have much hair, but I guess I could maybe put some Gorilla Glue or something in my head. We can figure something out. But hey, viewers, on to another funny story here. I don't really know what to think about this one because I'm first off, I'm a dog lover. This is a story about dogs, and I will say I'm a dog lover. I've owned 2 Great Danes. They've been awesome. But as much as I love loved my Great Danes, I would not leave them large chunks of change and significant sums of money. So this story is out of Nashville, Tennessee. Looks like Lulu is the dog's name, but she's an 8-year-old border collie. And she's actually going to be inheriting $5 million. Yeah, that's kind of why I let that up, viewers, because, again, I love dogs, but I don't think if I passed away, my dog would be getting $5 million. But Martha Burton, who is Lulu's caretaker, told WTVF-TV that Lulu's owner, Bill Doris, was a successful businessman who never married and died late last year. And his will, he actually stated in his will that he would like for his money to go to Lulu. He wants Lulu to be taken care of with that $5 million, where, she will be wined and dined and pampered. And
boy.
For $5 million and the fact that, dogs, generally don't, have a long life expectancy. I think she'll have a little bit of change. Maybe she can maybe Lulu can create a will and leave it to somebody else. But hey, Devin, if you've got a bunch of money that you feel like you want to leave to your dog, consider leaving it to me.
Yeah, the answer is no. I love Dorothy. That's my dog, but no, I'm not. No, not even if I was alone. No, maybe no. I just wouldn't do that. $5 million.
Which I will say, the money is going towards Martha to take care of Lulu, but I'm not going to be paying a dog sitter $5 million. Like, I'm just not going to do it.
No, and then like you say with the life expectancy, Lulu, not wishing death on her, but Lulu could pass away in a few years, and then you have, $3 million left. Like, that's crazy. I would never do that. So
no, like I said, I love dogs, but don't get me wrong, viewers. We're not like saying dogs shouldn't be
don't call Pete
pampered or anything. That's right. That's
right. So, our next quick hit is coming out of South Carolina, I guess you could say. Representative James Clyburn has revealed it is his hope to make "Lift Every Voice and Sing" the official U.S. national hymn. He says it's his goal to make a contribution to try to bring the country back together. And he said that according to CNN, he said that to Don Lemon during the Silence is Not an Option podcast. And so if you didn't know, the song "Lift Every Voice and Sing" is recognized as the Black national anthem and was written as a poem by James Weldon Johnson and set to music composed by John Rosamond Johnson. And so according to the NAACP, the song was first performed in Jacksonville, Florida during former President Abraham Lincoln's birthday on February 12th, which was yesterday. So it was February 12th, 1900 was when it was first played in Jacksonville, Florida. So you got a fun fact there. But so James Clyburn pushing for that. It's a symbolic move. I think there are other things we could be doing, but I see what he's trying to do.
I mean, he is a Democratic kingmaker, James Clyburn. So you
would think he would use that.
We may actually see some. We may see some movement on this, Devin, because he's got a lot of clout. President Biden definitely owes a lot to the congressman for being and being able to sit in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue right now. So he may need to be listening to this request from Representative Clyburn.
Yeah, he owes us a lot more than a national hymn. I'll just leave it there.
No, yeah, you absolutely got that right. And then our last little quick hit is actually coming out of Devin's home state, Texas. I always say, Devin, there's always a lot happening out of California and Texas, but this one, viewers, was a little relief, I think, to everybody because everyone's been kind of pandemic fatigue. Mm-hmm. I think everyone's been doing these Zoom meetings, and they probably got a little fatigued. I'm always sitting in front of a computer for work, but Texas Attorney Rod Ponton, actually kind of made things a little bit fun for one of his meetings where he kind of, did an appearance as a fluffy kitten. And I know everyone's probably seen, the videos and everybody's probably seen some pictures. You maybe even have gone on Zoom yourself, viewers, and probably put on a fun little filter, maybe accidentally, maybe not accidentally. But in this case, I think Rod, it was probably accidentally because he was meeting with the judge. And I think when you're meeting with the judge, you probably don't like yourself. So, he said he borrowed his assistant's 10-year-old desktop Dell computer, and he was logging into his routine civil forfeiture hearing on Tuesday, where he serves as a prosecutor in Texas. So, I guess, Devin, note to self, if you are going to borrow someone's computer, you may want to borrow it and log into Zoom early. I always try to log in about 10 to 15 minutes early, preview my camera, make sure the lighting is all good. He said his appearance looked normal on the webcam as he waited to be in the meeting, but when the meeting began, to his shock and dismay, he was a cat. So I always tell some of my clients, hey, sometimes it's user error, maybe not as tech savvy. I don't know, Rod, but next time you get ready to do a presentation, you better be prepared.
Yes.
Devin, you got the video?
Yes. Here is the video of this exchange. This is hilarious.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to take
we're trying to. Can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I can see that. I think if you click the up arrow next to the
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking.
Mics. All right, sorry about that. So yes, thank you to NBC for that clip. That was hilarious, and you saw it, Adrian. He was saying he was prepared to go forward as a cat. He just wanted to make sure the judge knew he wasn't really a cat, though.
Just in case the judge didn't know.
Exactly. The cat is not forfeiting anything here. So that's going to do it. That's it for weekly roundup number 4. That's it. It's in the books. We'll be back next week as always. And so before we go, though, we do have to give you our upcoming schedule and some things to keep an eye on. So first off, the podcast. We do have an audio podcast. If you don't know, you can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your music. You can find us, download it, listen to it. But this past week on the audio podcast, we did release an episode on dating, which featured Mason Glenn, who is a gay dating expert at Catch Matchmaking in Los Angeles, California. And then upcoming on Tuesday, the 16th, we'll have an interview, a big one, with Dr. Larry Robinson, who is the president of Florida A&M University, aka FAMU. In his interview, we'll have it video and audio, so you can enjoy it however you want to. That'll be up on Tuesday, and so that's a really good interview talking about the history of HBCUs, what's happening at Florida State. I mean, not Florida State, but Florida A&M. And then what, kind of the struggles with funding and things like that. So really good interview coming up with Dr. Larry Robinson from FAMU. And then, of course, like I said, next week we'll be back here, 7:30, February 20th, for weekly roundup number 5 to bring you all the news from next week. And, of course, I always say this venture is not free. This costs money to do these things that you see us doing. So, Adrian, you can tell the people how they can donate to us.
Yeah, viewers, we would love to have you as a regular monthly patron. We actually have a patron program set up through our podcast host where we can actually do different gifts, shout outs. You can have you on the podcast for donating to us. But yeah, more than anything, just remember that what we're doing is really to establish a movement and mission for Black and brown communities to talk about issues that affect us, but broaden them and show how they not only affect us, but they slow societal progress as a whole. So your dollars really help to spread that mission further and make this a lot more affordable for us because we're all going through a pandemic, so we can use that money. The other thing, we're going to be working with other nonprofits. Like I said, we're looking to do more than just bring you news and talk to leaders. We actually want to act and do stuff, and that does require money. One of those actions that we're wanting to do is actually highlight a charity for the month, and for the month of February, we're actually going to be highlighting Facing History and Ourselves. One of the things that your money could go to is that organization, because by giving to us, we can actually help that organization as well. It's a really, really, really great organization, Facing History and Ourselves. They seek to educate students of all backgrounds about the history of racism, prejudice, and anti-Semitism. So for Black History Month, why not, learn more about, tolerance? Why not learn more about civil liberties of everybody? So again, go to our website, donate. You can start off by giving $1 a month. Everybody has $1 a month they could probably give because everybody uses DoorDash and Postmates too much.
You're exactly right. It costs a lot to do that. So yes, make sure you give us a few dollars. We don't ask for much, just a little bit. And so before we go, we always like to tell you, share this on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find us at Black Agenda Pod if you want to follow us and you don't. Also, make sure to share this with friends, family, coworkers, anybody that you think would be interested. Show them the podcast. The podcast is great. It's got some really, really good interviews on there.
And even if you don't think they'll be interested, show it to them and we can convince them that they are actually interested.
Set them down, make them listen and learn something. Get off that get off the YouTube and go on over to the Black Agenda podcast and learn something from our interviews, because that's our goal here. Our goal here is to educate, and that's what we're trying to do. So that's going to do it for Weekly Roundup number 4. We appreciate you sticking with us all the way to the end. And so we'll be back next week, February 20th at 7:30 p.m. And so for me and Adrian, we appreciate you listening and watching, and we'll catch you next time.